Sebastian. I am a general practitioner here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I was born here. I studied at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica. I graduated in 2016. So what really drew me to medicine is, well, a lot of things actually. I realized from a pretty young age that I enjoy helping individuals. Of course, there are so many other ways that you can help individuals than medicine, but I always felt like I had a real knack for the sciences, and I really enjoyed the theory behind medicine, the human body, and how it operates. So it was just synergistic when I matched my, desire to help individuals and my love for this theory together. So that's why I chose medicine. I also like other things, basketball. I like culture. I like poetry as well. So I'm not all, medicine and all that. I'm a little bit more than that.
That's really great. So I know that when you studied medicine, you obviously match anywhere in the world. Well, your top institutions. What really motivated you to come back home and not really serve out there?
Okay. I actually always dreamed to come back home because my childhood dream was to actually improve the healthcare system at home. So that was always my dream to do that. So I definitely wanted to come back home so I can at least learn how the healthcare system operates after I graduated. So I spent about 1.5 years in Jamaica after I graduated to work a little bit. And then I decided, okay, let me come back home for a while. Let me see how it is before I decide to go off and specialize and then come back with everything I need. But I really needed to understand how it works so I can actually, apply myself out there so I can know how to and what to bring back to St. Kitts, because I would know what's lacking. How can I improve this? How can I make it better for everyone, not just the doctors, but the general population? So access to health care is extremely important. Take it for granted until they are actually sick. So I really want to bring that type of awareness to St. Kitts and Nevis and to improve the infrastructure as well.
That's really great. That love for home remained with you throughout your journey. So I know that you are heavily involved at the hospital. You are a part of the Dental and Medical Association, if I'm saying it correctly. You're also a leader within the COVID, situation here on the island, and you deal with emergency cases. So I know your workload is crazy. You want to delve into preventable diseases because this is Men's Health Month. And, the theme for this month is really preventable diseases. And we know that a lot of men, they silently suffer from, physical diseases and we in the Caribbean, we wait until it's a crisis to get help. So I want you to really just give us a foundation of what do you consider to be preventable diseases?
Okay, so preventable diseases are basically any disease where you can reduce the risk factors to avoid getting that said disease and its complications. Whether the risk factors are lifestyle changes, whether it's your diet, exercise, what you may do, drink or smoke, you can reduce those risk factors. So an example of some preventable diseases are like non-communicable diseases like heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. Cancer is considered a non-communicable disease, and lung diseases like asthma, etc. Vaccine preventable diseases. I know we're heavy in the vaccine era, but measles, mumps, rubella, tetanus, polio, varicella, which is chickenpox, and HPV. Well, that's more for women, but yeah. So these are some preventable diseases, and obviously, the COVID-19 vaccine can prevent you from getting COVID, the actual infection. even though it's not 100%, no vaccine actually is 100%, but it works in prevention along with other things like social distancing, hand sanitizing, mask wearing, and these type of things. There's also sexually transmitted illnesses that are preventable. Those are preventable diseases as well. And even some psychological illnesses are preventable.
Yeah.
So those are what I would consider preventable diseases.
So that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
But the good thing is you said that there are things that we can do to prevent ourselves from getting these. So it's not all doom and gloom. There are things that we can do. From your experience, what are the top causes of death among men, just based on what you would have shared? That listing, maybe like what are the top three that you see within, that you work within the Caribbean, but you would have experience within the US and the UK, just in general, the top three for death in men?
That's easy. It's heart disease is number one. About 1 in every 4 deaths are due to heart disease in men.
Wow.
So that's really high. So, and then second would be some form of cancer, which is around 22.5% because of death in every man. So
wow.
So the top 2 alone takes up nearly half the reasons for a male to die. And then after that, the third most cause would be an unintentional injury. So men get into accidents and those type of things. But one that I mentioned would be chronic lower respiratory diseases. So like infections there in the lower respiratory tract, and stroke comes in at number 5. That would be the top 5 I've given you reasons why men would die.
Well, heart disease, that's scary. And I know we see men over 45, but we see a lot of young men really suffering, and not much is said about it within young men. I expected to hear maybe depression or those mental health diseases within the top 3, but I'm sure it's in the top 10. So.
Well, yes, suicide is actually number 8 in terms of reasons of death, and it's usually secondary to depression. But a lot of these other chronic illnesses are actually very linked to depression. So individuals who have heart disease, a very high percentage, I believe it's close to 20% of individuals or a little more will have depression alongside that, as well as diabetes as well. So any, I guess, chronic type of disability or sickness would cause a reactive depression in an individual. So they're finding people with these diseases, and cancer especially, they're suffering from depression. Maybe it's due to their car, maybe it's due to the actual disease itself and their lifestyle and the change. But studies have shown it could be vice versa. So depression can actually lead to some of these problems as well. It can lead to heart disease. It could be due to perhaps stress levels and those type of things leading to these chronic illnesses being formed, and cancer as well. And obesity as well is a pretty big cause for cancer and has a high link to depression as well.
Yep. So I know that we're speaking about prevention. So you mentioned heart disease, you mentioned diabetes, you mentioned respiratory something, you mentioned a term there. What are the things that men can do to prevent themselves from getting these?
Okay. Well, it all starts with lifestyle. Lifestyle changes are the foundation to, I want to say, nearly every disease there is. In medical school, that's what we learned about first. Lifestyle changes, your diet. Obviously, you want a well-balanced diet, high in vegetables, high in fruit. You can still have, carbs and those things. You don't have to exclude those or anything like that. If you want protein, there are plant-based proteins that you can use, beans and that type of things. There is animal-based proteins, preferably white meat or fish, that's preferable. Red meat is considered carcinogenic, meaning they can lead to cancer if you eat too much red meat. So you have to be careful in the amount of red meat you actually consume in your diet. So you want to have a well-balanced diet, preferably majority of the plate. So if you had a plate, you want at least 1/3 of the plate to be plant-based, and then a little bit can be carbs, and then a little bit can be protein, whatever sort of protein you might choose. And then you want some good fats as well. So those are important. So some fish actually having good fat, like salmon. Then you have avocado. We're here in the Caribbean. I love avocado, what we call pear here. So there are options to what you can do. And some dairy products, you can get some fat from that as well. So some cheeses and that type of stuff. So a well-balanced diet, and obviously activity. You need to exercise. You need to actually use your body so it can function. It's kind of like a car. If you leave your car sitting down all the time, it's not going to work properly. So you need to be able to use your body. And I mean, in this modern age today, we're not as active as we were back in the hunter-gatherer time. Yeah. So we were designed to actually move about and walk and, you know, exercise. We weren't designed to sit down and, you know, stay at a desk for 8 hours out of the day. We were designed to be active and mobile. So exercise is important. So I recommend at least 30 minutes every day. You can push it back to 5 days a week, but 30 minutes, at least 5 days a week of about moderate exercise is perfect. You don't have to like go to the gym or anything like that, lift heavy weights, but moderate exercise, some cardio, go for a brisk walk. You can do some push-ups, some sit-ups, those type of things. Play a sport, do something you enjoy. That's a good way to get exercise while still having fun. Go for a swim. That's a great way to exercise. Plus, it doesn't put that much strain on your body when you're in the water. So we covered exercise, we covered diet, cut out the bad habits. Alcohol is a big thing in the Caribbean. We like to go out to drink, we like to go out to party, we love those things. Usually alcohol in excess is a bad thing. You can have a little bit of alcohol every day, perhaps like a glass of wine. Men can have 2 glasses, women should just have like a glass.
Not fair.
Not fair. It's not fair. I wish it was, but it's not fair. It's just based on the body size and stuff usually. So men and women, men are allowed to have at least, about 2 glasses a day, and they should be fine, but it's the excessive drinking that can cause a lot of problems. So alcohol can cause, obviously, liver disease. It can cause kidney disease. It can cause heart disease. And it can cause so many other vascular diseases because alcohol is just not good for you. Naturally, it's just, we're not meant to intake alcohol like that. It's a fun time. You can enjoy yourself, but not in excess. And then smoking, smoking is a big thing in the Caribbean as well. Not necessarily cigarette smoking, but there are people who smoke cigarettes. But there are people who also smoke, marijuana as well. And marijuana itself, I personally have no problem with it as an entity, but the smoking of it, the lungs were never designed to inhale smoke. It was just not designed to do that. It's just supposed to inhale air, okay? Oxygen, and that's what the lungs are meant to take. So smoke is a no-no. So once you have those lifestyle changes, your physical health should be fine. But then you also have to think about, your mental health as well.
Yeah.
So you need to be very wary about your environments, negative energy that you may, come into contact with, whether it is at home, etc. So you should always have to find time for yourself. So me personally, I always try to find at least one day out of the week where I can just go to myself and just go into my thoughts and, you know, just decompress from what's happening around me. Sometimes I need to take a little bit more time, but I at least try for one day in a week.
Yeah.
So once you fix these things, most of everything else, you know, falls into place in terms of these diseases that I've mentioned before. And obviously you would try to avoid the obvious risk factors. Let's say if it's an actual, like for instance, in STIs, you would obviously, you know, use protection if you're going to have sex, or you can be abstaining if, you know, and that will prevent you from getting certain diseases.
I feel like these are things that we hear about, but we do not implement. And I think the implementation is the issue. And sometimes we think that we have to do all the things, but it's really one little step. And I think persons, you know, they try and then they don't give it enough time, and they think I've given enough time. It's not working for me, but you really have to give the little steps that Dr. Sebastian would have shared some time for them to actually begin working. I had hormonal breakout a few months ago, and I was so amazed that it takes like about 3 months or so for your skin to like come back to baby skin. So I was doing all the things to my face, and I said I was doing 2 weeks, a month, and nothing was happening. And I became so impatient, and I said, can you imagine inside of my body? You know, I'm exercising for a week, a month, and I'm expecting all the changes one time. It really takes some time for our bodies to repair themselves. And if we've done a lot of damage, you know, previously, it will take a longer time. So I think it's so important for us to be intentional. And I love that you mentioned that you take time for yourself, but also to be intentional with what you eat and our activity level. I know for many men, there is that fear, there is that hesitancy in going to a doctor. So I think men know when something is wrong. You know, we women, we know what's up with our bodies. You get off the bat. But men, it's, you know, they can tell, they're not so sure. Sometimes they're sure, but to go and see a professional is a huge task. In your experience, and especially as a young man, why do you think that is?
Okay, so for men, well, one, I think it starts from how men are raised, how males are raised. We're kind of raised to push through whatever discomfort that we may feel. And usually that ends up with men coming in at an extremely late date to get things checked out, when usually this problem has escalated to a point where the damage is already done and you really can't go back from that. So we're kind of trained to be tough. Let's tough it out, it'll go away. That's how we're designed. You know, if a boy falls, they say, oh, get up, don't cry. You know, just tough it out. But other things are the fear of them finding out they have a major problem, and this will affect them, the ability to provide or to be a man in some form or some sorts. Whether this disability would stop them from being able to work. So there's that fear. Going to the doctor, I might get some bad news and I may not be able to be the man I am today. Embarrassment for certain tests. Yeah. So there are certain tests, especially for men, well, only for men, prostate examinations. They're very wary about that. Going to the doctor, they're afraid that the doctor will examine their prostate, and how we examine the prostate is we go through the rectum, and most men are not comfortable with that at all. But surprisingly, I've done a few prostate screens here in St. Kitts and Nevis in collaboration with the Rotary Club, and we saw at least over 400 men that came each time. So I was very surprised at that number. So the catch was it was free. So maybe men will come for free healthcare. I don't know. But those are some of the reasons why I find men avoid doctors. They're especially afraid to hear bad news that will affect their life and affect them from being able to be a man, or how they're trained to be a man.
Yeah, and I think lots of times this health thing, it's not seen as a priority, so other things are seen as a priority. Paying the bills is seen as a priority. Making money is seen as a priority. So, health, you figure, I feel a bit off, but it'll be okay. As you say, you shrug it off. And I think it's just so unfortunate that so many men, because there's so many illnesses that are not only preventable, but you can early detect and do what you have to do to
Yes.
save yourself and live longer for your loved ones, your children, and your family. So it's quite unfortunate. So to the men who are a bit hesitant to see the doctor, or they may not trust the doctor for some reason, what would you say to them in terms of going to get checked up?
I would tell them, you might be afraid of the doctor, but you should take a page out of the book of women, because women don't miss an appointment. They will come back,
Yes.
and they will make sure that they are healthy. Because I honestly believe you need about 1, maybe 2 checkups a year. You can avoid most problems that occur with you, and that will prevent you from getting some disease that may stop you from functioning as a man, or being unable to provide the way you're providing right now. So prevention is always better than cure. So just going for a checkup, you should be fine. It can save you a lot of money as well in the long run, by just simply going for a checkup and stopping anything from escalating. So that's what I would say for them. Doctors can be trusted. I don't know where we got this from.
Yeah.
But someone actually told me one time that who would trust a doctor? A doctor would inject them with a needle that causes pain, but then you would trust somebody who gives you candy. Candy tastes good, but candy is not good for you, right?
Yeah.
So so I guess the uncomfortable experience would make doctors seem untrustworthy, but we're really doing everything for the best of anyone's health, men and women.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we heavily depend on our natural resources to cure us. I can speak from the mental health perspective. Persons would, before they come to a therapist, they would speak to their grandmother or their partner or their friend. They would not see a therapist. So you could imagine with health, physical health, they'll try something in their yard. They'll try something they see on Google or on YouTube before they spend that money to go and see a professional who spent a lot of time studying to be able to give that support that you need.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, and I know you experienced that, and I love that you shared that women, we come and we are gonna triple check to make sure that everything is all right. That's just us. So I love that you would have cautioned men to take a page out of our books. I think we both learn from each other as well. So that's something that they can take from us. I'm interested to know about your personal health journey. So you've always been interested in helping your community and health, but I know as a healer, as clinicians, as physicians, sometimes you're so passionate about it because of your personal experience. So tell me a little bit about your health journey and how you take charge of your health right now.
Okay, so my health journey has been a little bit of a tenuous one. So for most of my life, I was, I think, in relatively good health. It was in 2019 that I discovered that I actually had a brain tumor. It was pretty abrupt. I actually noticed I was seeing double. Like from one day to the next, all of a sudden I'm seeing double.
Wow.
That's really not normal. So luckily I was a medical professional. I said, okay, this is definitely not normal. I don't need glasses. I need to check this out. I went to my good friend, an eye doctor, and he gave me a request for an MRI, and it was a brain tumor in all its glory. So I decided to, get it removed right away. I didn't even think about it. In my head, it was, okay, I have a brain tumor. I have to get it removed. I have to see what it is. I have to see if it's cancer. I have to see if it's not cancer. So I made an appointment. I got it removed in Jamaica. I stayed there for a few months with some of my friends that I was working with in Jamaica, and I got it removed. And it was only until after I got it removed that everything came crashing down mentally for myself, because I was just in doctor mode the entire time. I was not concerned about the risks of possibly dying from a brain tumor. I wasn't concerned about anything. I just knew I need to get this out now. I need to do this, that. I never took time to process any of it. So afterwards, I realized, okay, my gosh, I could have died. In Jamaica, when I was waiting for my surgery, I started to have seizures. Of course, I would have seen and treated seizures all the time, but to actually experiencing them, where I would just wake up and everyone would have this look of fear on their face, like, oh my gosh, this is what was happening to you. And I was completely unaware. And to me, that's a terrifying feeling. So with that, I think I gained a little bit more of insight into the lives of patients and how they experience seizures and those type of things, and just any type of serious illness. Luckily, my brain tumor was not cancer, and it was successfully removed. So I didn't need any chemotherapy or anything like that. I just needed the surgery. And the healing process was very difficult, because brain surgery, it's kind of like your entire body is resetting. So learning how to walk properly again, regaining my balance, all those things. I was fatigued. I would fall asleep randomly. I could be talking to you right now and I would just pass out, as lively as I am right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't even shower on my own for at least a month. So it took me a while to get back, and and worst of all, I couldn't think properly, because it's something that comes along with it called brain fog, where your thoughts just don't process. And this was the most terrifying thing about it. I'm like, okay, this is how I actually, make a living. I mean, what use am I if I can't think? So then there comes the reactive depression there, or the sadness, because I'm like, I'm useless now. If I don't get this back, what do I have in life?
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time, while I'm healing physically, I was healing mentally. And I was trying to basically, I guess, erase all these expectations and bad habits I may have, cultivated over the years. Like, I had to be this, or I had to do this at this point in my life, or I'm a failure. So I decided to take everything one step at a time. And slowly and surely, I started to regain everything, which I was thankful for. But I realized there's definitely more to life than that. So with that said, I felt like I was so much more able to relate to patients and what they go through. And just people in general in life. They may not be going through anything physically, but they can be going through something emotionally or mentally. And I think I'm much more well equipped to empathize with those individuals.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. That honesty is so important. And I always know that whenever something is personal to us, it makes us a bit more empathetic and sympathetic and understanding of the persons on the other side that we are serving, but with our own journeys as well. So I'm so happy that you are able to serve in a high stress job at this time, and that you've kind of recalibrated, you kind of redefined yourself, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. I'm really happy with that. And so what I'm hearing was, if it wasn't for early detection,
Yes.
and you were a doctor, so you were able to pick up, what was off. Others are not doctors.
Yeah.
They would realize that something doesn't seem okay, but because you realized that something was off, you went to do the next best thing, to see your friend, to see a physician, the eye doctor, and then move, take the next steps from there. That is so important. I know we're gonna sound like a broken record, but how important is early detection? Like, based on your experience?
I would say it's the most essential thing. It's the difference between long-term or permanent complications, or even death, or you're back to your regular life. If I never detected that tumor when I detected it, I would have probably passed, because I started to have seizures, and serious compression in my brain, because even though it wasn't cancerous, it was large enough to move things around, and there's only so much space in your skull. So if it's growing, it's going to be a problem. So I am extremely lucky that I decided to detect it. I wish I detected it earlier, but obviously I wasn't looking for anything earlier. I didn't have any symptoms. I might have had it for years and I never knew, but early detection, literally the next month could have been life or death for me. So early detection is key. It's essential. Just go for a checkup. Your doctor may pick something up, and then the doctor can ask for further tests to see what's going on.
And you would have mentioned that when you moved out of shock, you really had to grapple with that mental health aspect of it. And it really goes to show that physical health and mental health are married. They are one and the same. They are one and the same, and they deserve the same priority. Did you seek professional help? What was your mental health journey like for you to come out? Because I'm truly inspired by you right here, just a totally different person, based on what you would have shared. And I know that persons who are listening or viewing, they may think, but he said it so casually, but in that moment, it was very terrifying. So the fact that you can speak about it in such a measured way suggests that you did some work mentally.
Yes.
You did some internal work. That is why you can speak calmly about a very traumatic experience. What was that mental health journey like for you?
It was the most difficult thing I have ever experienced in my life, to peel back what you know yourself to be, or what you've thought you are for your entire life, or what you've built up. And you break that down and say, listen, I am none of these things. This is what I am. I am Cuthbert. I am not just a doctor. I am not just medicine. Like I mentioned before, I love art. I love poetry. I love sports. I love culture. I love history. I would love to travel. Obviously, it's a little difficult right now, just to see the world and just learn about different people, how they live, etc. I would love to integrate into different cultures and to see how it is. So I love experiences. So to peel back what I am, or what I thought I was okay, I am a doctor. I need to achieve this. I need to be this. Otherwise, I am nothing. I had to peel that away. And if I didn't peel that away, then I would have continued to be extremely sad, depressed, because once that's stripped away from me, which what I thought I was, what else do I have? Nothing, because that's what I thought I was.
Yeah.
So I'm way more things than just that. So if for one day, for some reason, I can practice medicine, I hope that day is never soon. I have so many other things that I am as a whole individual, you know.
That's lovely. I think, I've been really thinking about how do we teach persons to develop a healthy self-esteem? Because what you're mentioning is truly the image of self. How do we allow persons to know outside of your job, outside of your qualifications, there are a whole bunch of other things that make you you. When one thing is taken away, it doesn't mean that there aren't other identities to you, and so it's really, it's unfortunate that we have to go through traumatic experiences for us to get a clear sense of self. But if that's what it takes, then bring on the bad times, because let the shedding take place.
I wish we didn't have to go through it, but usually those are the experiences that really bring some form of enlightenment into your life. And sometimes people don't make it through those experiences, sad to say. But I think the best way to go about in the future is, start with the young, start with the kids, show them that, getting a job, doing amazing in school, academia is not the only path forward. It's not the only path forward. Encourage them to do things they love, they like, that they're interested in. Encourage them to make friends, family time, socialize, so they can figure out what are the things that they love, what are the things that make them them. And I think that's an extremely important thing that we have to do. Sometimes we get too focused upon the academia. Oh, you failed this, you dropped out of school, you're not doing good. And I mean, I guess back in the day, I guess in our forefathers' time, academia was extremely important based on where they were coming from, right? Because that was their only way out of a certain lifestyle, academia. So I guess that passed along to this generation, but now in the world we live in, academia is not the only way forward. I'm not saying it's not important, but there are other paths forward, like sports. We have a lot of talented sportsmen here in St. Kitts. I'm actually following the St. Kitts national team. Yes. I was so upset at the last game because we play better. But there's so many other opportunities out there. You follow your dream, and when you follow your dream, you do it passionately and you do it with conviction, and you work hard when you follow your dream. And you should be fine once you do these things. I'm not saying you don't have a backup with academia and those type of things, but follow your dream, make it work.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you shared that. Thank you for that honesty. You would have mentioned that you spent some time in Jamaica recovering, and obviously you have had to have support. So you would have had to have persons really for you to take care of you. I know that a lot of men, whether they have a partner who is a man or a female, however they identify, our partners are so heavily involved in our health journeys. From your experience, how can partners, whether it's a woman or a man or other, how can we support our men to avoid these preventable diseases?
So if you have a partner who's a man, I'm speaking to the women or the others, carry them along with you. When you're going to get checked up, you can recommend, okay, let's go get checked up together. Because in reality, if you have a partner, their health affects you and your health would affect them if they are your partner. So if you're sick and disabled, it's my responsibility to take care of you and make sure you're okay. and vice versa. So carry them along. That's a great way to support them. That's probably one of the best. And you have to do it in a, I would want to say, not a forceful manner. You have to, I guess, ease it in, because people tend to pull back when they feel like they're being forced. But, it's important, come together, show that you're going to be there for them, show that you're right along the side. Because I've seen cases where a woman, let's say they would go for a STI check. So the woman would go in and get checked, and just so the man would say, okay, I don't have anything, because she doesn't have anything. So, but it's important to go and get checked together, because even then, it's a possibility that individuals may not have transmitted whatever disease it is to that person. So it's important for both parties to get checked at the same time.
Right.
So her health or the other's health would not be equal to your health. So you should both get checked up. And that's what I would recommend, just doing it together.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Sometimes it involves maybe sitting in the car while they're inside. Support is important. I know that when I can speak from the therapy side, that sometimes it's really driving with the person to therapy, waiting until their session is done. You're not going inside. You're not even in the waiting room. You're in the parking lot or whatever. It shows support.
Yes.
And also to get involved yourselves, because you would have mentioned how important lifestyle changes are. Mm-hmm. So I jog in Frigate Bay. So I see a lot of couples jogging and exercising. That's a thing that can really help your partner, a man, to own his health and to take care of his health, and for him to get these preventable diseases. So whether it is y'all cooking together or you're exercising together or, whatever it is, be involved in it, and not just be, as you would have shared, just telling them what to do in a condescending way, or involved in the process as well, because what's good for the sick is better for the healthy, and what is good for the healthy is good for the healthy. So get involved. I really appreciate that. And then you mentioned success stories. You'd have mentioned the situation with STIs, and I'm guessing you have a lot, since you work in the agency, success stories of partners being there for your partner during a crisis or during an emergency. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I have so many stories of partners being there. It is mostly the women that's there. Sad to say, but I have a few men that have been there to support their women for whatever it is that's wrong. I remember a case, not in the emergency room, but actually on the ward when I was working there for a time, when a woman was paralyzed and her man was there every day, taking care of her, feeding her, changing her, bathing her, and he was extremely supportive. He hardly left the hospital. He lived there. He could have been a patient.
Wow.
As far as I'm concerned, with how long he's been there. And he was just so supportive. I mean, obviously she was going through so many things. Luckily, her paralysis wasn't a permanent paralysis, so it was due to an illness that was just transient, meaning it would have gone away by itself. Yeah. And so she recovered from that, and he stuck by her side until she recovered, however many weeks it was. And it was really nice to see a man, taking that caregiver role away from the women, because men can be caregivers too. We can cook, we can do all these things. So it was really good for a change to see that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I'm welcoming that into my life as well. Caregiver. So we've been speaking for a bit, and I want you to share some resources that are important to you, resonates with you, that you would recommend for men, for them to better take care of themselves? It can be online resources, it could be local resources that you think would resonate with men.
Resources that resonate with men. Okay, so, well, in terms of their health, I really look at this a plethora of online resources, the WHO, and there's actually platforms for nearly every health website that is just for men, because the world recognizes that men do not like to go to the doctor.
Yes.
They recognize that. The WHO has it, the CDC has it as well. You look at the Mayo Clinic, they have guidelines for men in terms of exercise. There is a kind of, I guess, a bloggish type of website. I wouldn't say it's like the most scientifically sound, but it has a few good articles with a few good tips for like fitness and those type of things. It's called menshealth.com. That's really good for men in terms of fitness and diet and those type of things. There's a few other little things that stray away from health, but you know, that's a good resource. And then you have resources here at home. So you have your doctors, you have your nurses, you have your nutritionists, you have your therapists that you can go and speak to. I know we have this, I guess, the stigma of going to the therapist for this mental health stigma, but it is okay to go to a therapist. Mental illness is just like any other illness.
Yes.
And we all go through mental illness. Men actually, even though they are not as depressed as women, it's actually harder to pick up depression in men than it is in women.
It is.
And that's because of failure to recognize the depression. You may think like feeling sad or emotional is the main symptom of depression, but for many men, it's not the primary symptom. So they manifest it physically. So headaches, they get tired, they'll be irritable, digestive problems, and sometimes they downplay the signs and symptoms. So the manly ego, the bravado comes out, they downplay it and they ignore it and they suppress it, and they focus on other negative things, like maybe they pick up drinking, maybe they smoke, maybe they do something else to replace those signs and symptoms. They're usually reluctant to discuss their symptoms. Again, that ego is coming out, so they'll hide it and they'll suppress it. So they'll never try to show that they're sad or emotional. They'll just try to be the man, you know? And they're worried about the stigma, because no one wants to be labeled or wants the outside or the external to think that they are mentally ill, whether it's depression or they have some type of mental illness. So that plays a lot. So we should try to, I guess, normalize mental illness as just a regular illness, because 1 in every 6 men or women can actually be depressed.
Yeah.
Or find depression sometime in life.
Yeah, that's the truth. So, you know, it's a work in progress. In Be Well and Bloom, a lot of men reach out to us via our DMs, through private messages. Some don't show, some show. Most of their partners reach out about their partners. You know, us women, we care about our men. But there is work to do. There is work to do around mental health. And as you would have shared this evening, there is so much to do in terms of taking care of your physical health, because it affects your mental health as well. So I want to thank you.